Hey guys, welcome back to Musings with Maverick channel. This is your host Maverick, and today we're going to be watching Vinland Saga episode 9. Now, as I've been always doing with this series, I've tried to use a more historical based context to view the events, see the real life references, see the parallels, see how much it strays away, and so on and so forth, because that's fun for me and it's also kinda sorta my area of expertise. Well, I don't really want to say expertise, let's just say I have a little bit more than the layman's knowledge of these kinds of events, right? So, especially right now, stemming from last episode, we're at a very, very interesting point in history where Sweyn Forkbeard has formally started his invasion of England. He's with his son Cnut by his side. He's pretty much swept through all of England and is now outside the gates of London. Right now, if historical context is to believe, the history that we have as far as we know, this is where he met the combined forces of King Ethelred of England, as well as a former Jomsviking, Forkel the Tall, who is now a mercenary working with King Ethelred. Now, so again, according to historical context, historical text, Sweyn Forkbeard did not actually win here. He was driven back, and so he decided to pursue a different approach where he basically went around to the surrounding countryside and gained the surrender of all the other various nobles and whatnot in those areas. And then he eventually came back to London and said, look, I've got the entire country under my control, what can you do about it? And so King Ethelred surrendered, technically surrendered the city of London and went into exile, right? And then from there, things started to get a little bit wonky, as not far off, we get the succession of Cnut to his father's position, because Sweyn Forkbeard, once he actually got control of London, didn't actually last long for the world. Now, I keep on saying this with a, sort of like a preface and a asterisk put beside it, because, honestly, everything that we know about this time period within England mainly comes from a text called the Anglo-Saxon Chronicles. Now, as its name might imply, it is mostly history that's told on the side of the Anglo-Saxons, not necessarily the most unbiased of sources, right? So there's actually a lot of leeway here as to how these events actually unfolded. So, even though what I'm reciting right here is that Texas version of what happened here, it's entirely possible that they actually did fight a big battle and perhaps even Sweyn Forkbeard won or something, but due to some other reason he decided to go around to surrounding countryside or whatnot. It's entirely possible, right? This, if ever there was a case where artistic license could be used to its full effect, I feel like it would be in this place, since as long as in the end the events that the text describes still happened, the end result, the end effect, then go ham on it, I guess, because we don't know if specifically what exactly happened. We don't even know if the text is telling the whole truth. So I'm really interested to see how this series is going to have its take on this particular event. So if that's it, let's get into the episode. Alrighty, and let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. That was maybe a bit longer intro than I wanted, but, I wanted to give the full context of the situation over here. And I didn't even talk about Thorfinn and Ashclad. Like, are they gonna make an appearance here or what? Battle of London Bridge. Oh, it is here. That bridge will actually come into more prominence a few years later. Arkel. I reckon we'll probably have a little bit more context as to what actually happened for Cal in the future, especially since he is going to reunite with, or become someone working with Cnut. Really? Of course, London is also um, kind of important because this is where King Ethelred of England really liked to uh, essentially use this as his base of operations. Really? Orphan against Orca? Okay. Just the opportunity for a duel is enough for his pay. Yeah. Really? So in this context, they're going to let Thorfinn fight with Forcal. Okay. That is interesting. Like I said, they can do whatever they want here, right? It's not specifically recorded what actually happened. But anyways, let me skip this real quick. And back. Nah. And here, probably we get the hint that he's not really just doing this for money. Can they even understand? What? No, Everett is right there. Jarl Sigvaldi, the leader of the Jomsvikings. Vikings. Yeah. Oh, Edmund. Even Edmund makes an appearance. Really? Okay. So they're... Is that the actual reason that this anime is going for? Okay. That's probably basically like a warning shot or something. That's nice. And they're also actually taking note of the discrepancy between language here. Now, of course, we actually don't know the exact reason why Forcow actually turned as well. There's speculation here, like maybe his conscience, maybe something related with religion or whatnot, but we don't entirely know. They're really making this to be some old, mysterious, ominous old guy. The only thing that I'm not too sure about here is them saying that King Ethelred is already in France. Oh. An complete log? Holy crap. Mm. Okay. So are they going to go with the Cnut angle or with the forfeit angle? Ah, the forfeit angle. Alright. Really? Oh. Woohoo! Holy crap. Absolutely ridiculous, but so fun. Okay, and what are you gonna use? Just your fist? This dude. Whew. Oh. Damn. Oh! Boom! Oh, okay. Oh, okay, that's gotta hurt. Ash Class is just like, ah. And they're just gonna leave Thorfinn there? Really? His arm has to be broken now, right? Oh, he's playing dead. Oh shit. You should know Taurus, right? Yeah. This dude, he lost 2 fingers. What is with this dude? Oh my god. Ow. Okay. So Plan Thorfinn didn't work. Now what? Plan Cnut? Mercy kill? No. So, Plan B? Okay, so there we go. They're going with the captured countryside plan. Cnut? Mm.
話が違うではありませんか。殿下のご同行は民に示しをつけるためとそう仰せられたはず。アグナル殿、控えなさい。陛下のご意志です。トルケルには全軍ですらかなわぬのです。その5分の1の兵力で当たるなどご無理です。このくらいでなければ薬に
I mean,
ですが、殿下は慣れぬ戦場で辛労も重ねられて、お前の責任でもあるのだぞ、ラグナル。キリストの教えのせいか、あれは男のくせに妙に気弱に育ってしまった。近習のお前が甘やかすからだ。申し訳ありません。クヌートには大井軍の将を任ずる。飛行が付き添い、武将として。
Ragnar. Is this also someone historically significant? Not entirely sure here. I have to look this dude up. Yeah, probably dislocated. Or broken. That was a lot of stress on his shoulder. Yeah, dislocated. Yeah, you're still alive.
おい、見えるか。奴らほとんど引き上げてってますね。はあ？ことは、俺たち勝ったってこと？勝った？尻尾巻いて逃げたって。じゃあ、やっぱ勝つ。なんだよ。どうしちまったんだよ。やった！勝ったぞ。
It's just like, I haven't had enough fights yet. That's funny.
バカ野郎！ロンドンは諦めるってのか。戻ってこい、腰抜け。
Ah, that's funny.
めんどくせえな。トルケルの野郎め。おい、なんだお前、生きてたのかよ。ひでえ様だな。ま、今回は相手が悪かったな、トルフィン。ところで俺ら、ウェセックスへ進軍するけどどうする？歩くのが辛いならここへ置いてくけど。
He's trying to push it back. Definitely persistent. Okay, this for this, I actually feel quite sympathetic for him. Like, how do you even use logic and reason against this? Oh man. Alright, I'll see you guys after this. Okay, there we go. That was a fun little episode, especially in regards to the character of Forcal. My apologies first if I'm not going to be talking about too much in regards to the actual things that happen within the anime, at least in context of Thorfinn and Ashclad and all that. I mean, you know, I get it, right? It's maybe I'll mention this a little bit more afterwards, but right now I want to focus on specifically how this anime portrays Forcal, because you know it's really funny because I just mentioned this at the beginning, right? You know, in regards to Forcal, or actually in regards to this entire period of history in general, there's not really that many reliable sources, historical sources, right? We basically have the Anglo-Saxon chronicles, and it's in the context of Cnut and Sweyn and even Forcal to a certain extent. We have this other document called the Economium Imai Reginae. That's Latin, so I'm not really sure how to pronounce it. And of course, we have the various Viking saga, or sorry, I should say Norse sagas as well, such as the Viking sagas, and as well as various other works derived, you know, various research and whatnot derived from these primary sources. Now, the thing is, though, that a lot of times these primary sources actually contradict with each other. So, as I said, they each have their own biases, and not to mention that, you know, these aren't exactly the people who wrote this aren't exactly historians who fact checked everything, right? They are prone to their biases and their errors. So a lot of the times the events and descriptions of stuff, of people, of events don't really match up with each other. So Forcal is one of these characters who, you know, he really, within historical records, he came out of nowhere near like the end, like 980 990 80, somewhere like that, and then he basically disappeared sometime in 1020, right? So a period of around 30 years where he suddenly gained a big prominence, and then they talk about him a lot, but then suddenly he disappeared off the face of the earth. So even for his very ending, we're not entirely sure if he is a trusted advisor, a trusted companion of King Cnut, or actually King Cnut regards him as a renegade, as someone that to be distrusted, and so that was, you know, he basically lived the rest of his life in, you know, in basically in, you know, nobody knew about him, right? He didn't really do anything afterwards. So again, and you also consider the fact that he sort of flip-flopped between different sides before. Now, again, here it was directly mentioned in this episode, right? He was originally one of the Vikings. His brother Sigvaldi is literally the leader of the Vikings, at least if the sagas are to be believed. And then he, you know, he was part of the forces who, you know, not official forces, right, but basically doing what Vikings do, right, going Viking on the English territories in pursuit of loot and plunder. And that's what Forcal was also doing the years prior to this invasion. And then later on, you know, why exactly he changed allegiance and decided to enter the court and become a mercenary of King Alfred of England, nobody really knows, right? There's like, you know, there's a simple account where, you know, basically he was paid a very, very handsome sum of money, which, you know, he was paid in the end. A lot of different historical sources do confirm this fact. He was paid a lot of money in the end. Was that the main reason, though? Or, you know, there's, I believe, from the sagas, the reason given was that Forcal and his men, I believe it had something to do with an archbishop or something, and how the archbishop was basically killed due to basically, you know, frankly no reason at all. And so, and disheartened, Forcal decided to enter services with the King of England to presumably, I don't know, atone for sins or something like that, something romanticized like that, right? So there's all these different kinds of accounts, and in this particular instance, they're instead trying to portray him as a madman, right? He simply likes to likes the battlefield. He likes the combat. I'm not sure if there's going to be even more in-depth characterization to him, or if this is literally how they're going to go with his character. And the cool thing about this is that they can absolutely do this no problem, right? Because, as I said, since all the different sources are contradicting each other anyways, there's no reason why he can't just be this battle-loving, you know, Norse Dane who wants to stay here and wants to battle, right? Though I'm not quite sure if that actually makes sense in, you know, logically, but still, it's as good a reason as any, I say. So that's the fun part about all this. It can work, right? It can work because we don't know what happened. Even Thorfinn actually coming up and participating in this battle and then having this one-on-one deal with Thorkel. Now, granted, if such a thing did happen in history, probably there would be some records of it. But still, since we don't know for sure or exactly, sure, whatever, go ham, right? So that is that. Now, there are a few things, however, that lots of sources do agree on, and that is something that I feel like I should point out. Such as in this case where Floki, I believe, you know, the current leader, I guess, sub-leader or commander of the Joms Vikings under Sweyn Forkbeard, you know, he mentioned how King Alfred had already fled to the Franks, right? Now, as far as I know, this is not historically accurate, and when I'm saying historically accurate here, I'm talking about being confirmed by multiple sources. By all means, it seems that King Alfred of England was still in London at this time, fighting alongside Thorkel, and holding out until basically sometime around Christmas, right? And so basically what's going on here is that they are being sieged by Sweyn Forkbeard's forces. That is true. And then of course, as the anime chose to portray it, Sweyn Forkbeard's forces also sort of diverted out and then went into the surrounding countryside to basically, you know, beat them into submission and say, okay, I'm your king now, right? Basically, making the others his vassals in a way. And so in the end, once the Londoners knew of the situation, they decided to surrender, and so King Alfred was forced into exile, and that was when he crossed the ocean and went into Normandy, which is in France, right? So I feel like that's a part where I don't feel is, you know, that's a part where maybe they shouldn't have taken the liberty. Like, there's literally so much stuff to take liberty with. Why concentrate on that exact point, right? So that is one thing. And another thing that I'd like to mention is, okay, so again, within the ending of this episode, we know that they are going out into the surrounding countryside and whatnot, trying to conquer different lands. Now, again, within the historical sources that we have, you know, I don't think there is actually more fights. So perhaps next episode we're going to get a time skip as well, and fast forward to around Christmas time, which is when Sweyn Forkbeard gained control of London, and in essence the entirety of England as well, because he already got allegiance from all the different other lords of the different lands, right? Although that was quite short-lived because, again, as I mentioned last episode, he died shortly after in the following year, in spring of the following year. Now, I don't think that's quite a spoiler, considering that this is history, right? History, you can't be spoiled by history. This is a historical anime after all. But yeah, that's what's gonna happen. And he's gonna die real soon, and Cnut is going to take his place, right? Where was I? Oh, in regards to the surrounding countryside. So I do wonder if we're going to be seeing them actually rounding up the different hostages and whatnot, which they did actually take as part of tribute, if you could say, or sort of like a guarantee that the other lords would hold true to their allegiance to Sweyn Forkbeard. And that is kind of important because it also follows on later on how exactly they are going to portray Cnut, the character, right? Are they, within this episode, we see his father sort of berating him for, you know, following the teachings of Christianity, maybe being too soft, too kind-hearted, something like that. And so I wonder if they're going to continue to go with this sort of kind-hearted kind of Cnut or whatnot, or are they going to try to maybe show his his change of heart, his change of behavior, and eventually become this sort of ruthless king that does whatever is needed in order to secure his position. Because that is eventually what happens, real soon, actually, real fast. Once his dad dies, he's going to be forced to do some pretty nasty stuff, some of which do regard hostages as well. So, although, again, you could argue whether this is historical fact or not, so it'll be interesting to see how exactly they develop this character. I feel like this would be a ripe kind of opportunity for them to show maybe Cnut in his very innocent, very what's it called? Very kind, that kind of person, and then his gradual transformation into a ruthless character, right? That'd be actually quite fun to see in anime form as well. And, the story basically writes itself, right? So I do wonder if that's how they're going to portray this situation. What are some other stuff that can be, let's see. Oh, Forkow actually mentioned a Prince Edmund here, right? So that, I do believe, is referring to Edmund Ironside, who is the second or third son of King Ethelred. And indeed, he did end up being the one to inherit the throne from King Ethelred later, because, funnily enough, King Ethelred also didn't live very long after this, and he also died of sickness, or some reason anyways. And so his son Edmund did succeed him, and Edmund also later on had some sort of alliance, pact, whatever you want to call it, with Cnut as well, being the successors to their respective fathers and whatnot. They did come into an agreement, although that is a few years down the line, so we're not going to worry about that for now. But it's nice that they name dropped Edmund right now. So yeah, I think that about covers everything that I want to say in terms of historical stuff for this episode. The London Bridge, actually, we'll probably get to revisit it again, maybe a few years later. I'm not sure how crazy they're gonna go with the time skips, but it's also going to play a prominent role between Cnut and Edmund 2 or 3 years down the line. So that's not going to be the last time we see of that London Bridge. And yeah, I think that about covers it. In terms of the actual episode, I don't know, I was actually kind of surprised that Askeladd just threw away Thorfinn that easily. I thought he would consider him maybe a more valuable asset than to just leave him there. But at the same time, I guess he couldn't really do anything, and so probably in his mind he was thinking, okay, if Thorfinn lives, he lives. If not, well, too bad, right? So I guess in his mind, sacrificing one Thorfinn for the successful retreat for the rest of his men probably made sense, right? That was an expense he was willing to pay. So yeah, I guess so. And Thorfinn, well, I don't even know whether to say if he's easily manipulated or not, or Askeladd is just too good at, manipulating people, right? And doing all these kinds of, sometimes near suicidal work just for the chance to duel someone, and I don't know, I just feel like this entire situation is quite funny to me in a certain way. Like, I get it, he wants to uphold honor and all that, but still, in order to get someone else to accept to adore you, you have to work for him and to go into all these kinds of ridiculous situations. I don't know, man. Like being a messenger or whatnot and doing reconnaissance work, doing scout work, that's one thing. Trying to assassin, because remember last time when they actually went to France against that fort, that was more of he didn't actually tell Askeladd didn't exactly tell Thorfinn to go kill the commander of the garrison there and bring his head to me, right? He didn't tell him to do that. Thorfinn decided that was the best course of action himself. Here though, it's exactly, he should absolutely know how great of a warrior or how good of a warrior Forkow is, and he's basically sending him to his basically death sentence, right? If Forkow was not this kind of, this kind of interesting character, Thorfinn would absolutely be dead by now, right? So I don't know, that just felt funny to me. And like I said, this is the first time where I actually felt a lot of sympathy towards Thorfinn. Not only because of the situation he got himself into, but also because he's up against a madman, right? Who wants to go against someone who doesn't respond to any reason or logic, right? So poor Thorfinn. This is probably out of all the episodes the first time I felt very genuine sympathy towards him. So yeah, I feel like this review portion has been going on way too long. So again, next episode, I don't expect them to actually do anything, any actual fighting or whatnot. We'll probably get another kind of time skip again, unless they want to sort of develop Thorfinn's character some more through some dialogue or whatnot. Otherwise, I feel like we're probably going to just time skip to around Christmas time, to when the Danish forces do eventually capture London. And then that's when also things start to go wrong for Cnut and the rest of the Danish forces. So yeah, anyways, that concludes my review of Vinland Saga Episode 9. Hope to see you guys next week as well. Stay tuned, and bye-bye.